In the last exercise, we successfully echoed back a message to the client that the client sent to the server. In this exercise, we're going to now broadcast every message that the client sends to the server to all other connected clients, thus completing our chat application's core functionality. Let's take a look at the current onMessage handler. Here, we're using the send method to send a message back to the socket that we received a message from. Instead, we'd like to send this data out to all connected clients. To do this, we'll need to start by accessing all connected clients on our server using the wsserver.clients array. This array will contain all of these socket objects that have ever formed a connection with our server. Using the for-each method, we will iterate over each of these connected sockets. And I'll use an arrow function to define this callback. Now, at a base level, broadcasting simply means taking each connected client and using the send method to send that data to the clients. Let's go ahead and do that. Connected socket.send, and then we'll just send the data directly. At this point, our server will iterate through all clients and send the message. I'll go ahead and comment out this message here. I'll save my code and restart our server. As you can see, I've opened up 3 browsers. This will make it a little bit easier to see the messages being broadcast from one client out to all connected clients. I'll go ahead and send a message here, which you can see is now being broadcast to both of these other 2 connected clients. However, the client that sent the message itself is also receiving this message. Let's go ahead and fix that. Back in this for each loop, I'm going to wrap this call to the send method in an if statement. And there are 2 things that we need to check before sending a message. The first is we need to make sure that the connected socket is in fact still connected. And we can do that by checking the connected socket's ready state property. If that property is equal to the WebSocket.open constant, which is equivalent to the value 1, then we know that that connected socket is still connected to the WebSocket server. And second, we need to make sure that this connected socket is not the same socket connection as the socket along which the original message was sent. We can do this simply by comparing our connected socket to that socket. With these 2 conditions in place, we're guaranteeing that the message is being broadcast to only open socket connections and is omitting the socket that sent the message in the first place. Let's go ahead and save the code and restart the browser. I'll return to my browser and refresh the page. Now when I send a message, as you can see, it's still being sent to the other 2 browsers, but the client that sent the message is not receiving its own message. Now before we wrap up this exercise, let's turn this broadcasting logic into a function, since we're going to want to use it throughout our application. Below in the helper functions section, we've defined this function called broadcast, which accepts data to broadcast, as well as a socket to omit from the broadcast message. We can go ahead and copy most of this code in. And the only value that we'll need to change is the name of this socket that we're comparing to. Instead, we'll call it socket to omit. Now back in our message handler, since we've moved that logic into our broadcast function, we can now just call the function broadcast, passing in the data, as well as the socket that sent the message, as our socket to omit. Again, I'll go ahead and save my code, restart my server, and make sure that the code is still working. And there you have it. We now have a functioning chat application where messages sent from one client to the server are then broadcast to all other clients connected to the server, excluding the client that sent the message. Now, before we wrap up this lesson, we're going to go through one more exercise where we will refactor this project, enabling us to send messages of different types back and forth between the client and the server.